Welcome to Chilling True Horror, where we bring you real-life encounters with the unknown that will leave you questioning every shadow in your home. If you've ever experienced something supernatural that still sends chills down your spine, or a moment of true fear that haunts you to this day, we'd love to hear about it. Share your story by emailing us at chillingtruehorror@gmail.com. The details will be in the video description below. Your tale could be featured in a future episode, narrated just like the ones you're about to hear. These stories come from real people who've faced the unimaginable in their everyday lives, and they're bound to make you double-check your locks tonight. Let's dive into the darkness together. If these accounts grip you from the start, hit that like button to show your support and subscribe so you never miss a shiver-inducing upload. I had been living in that apartment for about 3 years in total, but the first year and a half was with my ex. It seemed like a great find. At the time, my best friend's sister was breaking her lease, and she needed someone to take it over. I was desperate to get out of my husband's mom's house and finally have our own space, so we jumped on it. The place was on the second floor of an old building, right above a restaurant in a sketchy part of town. As soon as you walked in, the kitchen was on your right, open to the living room. Past that was a long hallway, maybe 20 feet or so, with doors on the left, 2 bedrooms, then the bathroom, and at the very end, a door to the laundry room. Nothing fancy, but it was affordable and quiet enough. While my ex was still there, things were mostly normal. We had his 2 cats running around, and he had his gaming setup in the living room. I turned the spare bedroom into my art studio, with a desk and my laptop for watching videos while I painted or crafted. I'm pretty diligent about shutting down my computer properly. My ex taught me that, so I never just left it running. And since the cats loved knocking things over, I always kept the studio door closed when I wasn't in there. But one night, something weird happened that we couldn't explain. I woke up in the middle of the night to what sounded like a video playing on a computer. At first, I thought maybe one of the cats had jumped on his gaming rig and turned it on by accident. Groggy, I rolled over and drifted back to sleep without thinking much of it. The next morning, though, my ex got up early for work, and I heard him go into my studio to shut something off. That's when it hit MIT. Was my laptop that had been on, blaring a YouTube video. My heart skipped a beat because I knew I'd turned it off the night before. Plus, to even get it running, you'd need my passcode, and the door had been closed tight for hours. If it had been playing earlier, we would have heard it before bed. We checked for glitches or something, but nothing added up. It was odd, but we shrugged it off and moved on. Nothing else happened while he was there. Then the divorce hit, and he moved out, taking the cats with him. Suddenly, it was just me and my Great Dane in that place. She was my constant companion, always sleeping in the bedroom with me on her futon at the foot of the bed. She never wandered off to the living room at night, but from the moment he left, the apartment felt different, heavier, like eyes were always on me. I never felt fully at ease, especially alone, and that's when the strange smells started. I'd catch whiffs of stale cigarette smoke drifting through the air. I don't smoke, never have, and neither did my friend's sister, who'd lived there before. It wasn't constant, but it had hit me out of nowhere in the laundry room mostly. But sometimes right when I'd walk in the front door, or down that long hallway, I'd check vents, windows, everything, but no source. It just came and went, like it had a mind of its own. The hallway always creeped me out the most. It felt unnaturally cold sometimes, and my friend mentioned once that she'd felt the same eerie vibe when visiting her sister there years ago. But her sister swore up and down she'd never experienced anything in her 10 years living in the place. I tried to ignore it, but as months passed, I started wondering if someone was squatting in the apartment without me knowing. The neighborhood was rough, full of homeless folks, so it wasn't impossible. I'd lie in bed at night and hear rattling in the kitchen like cabinets opening or utensils shifting. My dog would perk up sometimes, staring at the door, but she'd settle back down. About 6 months after the split, I started dating my current boyfriend. He'd stay over a few nights a week because, honestly, I hated being there solo, and he worried about me. That's when things ramped up. He'd wake up in a panic some nights, heart racing, with this overwhelming sense of dread like something was in the room watching us. No nightmares, no reason, just pure fear hitting him out of nowhere. I felt it too, but I didn't say much at first. The scariest night was when I was alone with my dog. She's a laid-back giant when she's out cold. But around 2 a.m., I jolted awake to her growling low and deep, sitting bolt upright on her bed, staring straight into the dark hallway. She'd never done that before, especially not in the dead of night. Her hackles were up, teeth bared, fixed on something I couldn't see. I shushed her to listen, and in the silence, I heard it, creaking footsteps shuffling down the hallway from the living room, getting closer to my open door. My blood ran cold. I was convinced someone had broken in. Maybe the squatter I'd imagined. Heart pounding, I slipped out of bed as quietly as I could and grabbed my pistol from under the mattress. The footsteps kept coming, slow and deliberate. My dog growled again, louder. I crept to the doorway, pistol ready, fully expecting to see a figure in the hall. But when I peered out, nothing. Empty darkness. I forced myself to check the rest of the apartment, flipping on lights, heart in my throat. Kitchen clear, living room empty, doors and windows locked tight. No sign of anyone. I barricaded myself back in the bedroom, but sleep, forget it. I lay there wide-eyed till dawn, replaying those footsteps in my head. It didn't stop there. One night, as my boyfriend and I were winding down in bed, I heard the silverware drawer in the kitchen yank open and slam shut with a bang. We both froze, staring at each other. Neither of us got up to check. We were done pretending it was nothing. We just pulled the covers up and tried to ignore it. Everything came to a head when I decided to move out. I was grabbing my mail downstairs one day and ran into the restaurant owner below. We chatted, and I mentioned I was leaving. He looked surprised and asked if I'd ever noticed anything unexplainable up there. At first, I thought he meant the neighborhood weirdos, but he clarified no, like stuff in the apartment itself. My stomach dropped, and I admitted, yeah, a lot actually. He nodded, like he'd expected it, and spilled everything. His staff and customers had seen apparitions in the restaurant, full figures appearing and vanishing, cans flying off shelves on their own. That heavy, watched feeling everyone got. And get this, the tenant in the front apartment before me had messed around with a Ouija board there. The owner even brought in a medium once, who talked about energy vortexes in the basement, whatever that means. Hearing all that validated everything I'd brushed off. It wasn't in my head. The last incident sealed it. My boyfriend was brushing his teeth in the bathroom while I was already in bed. My dog was settling in, and I said goodnight to her softly. He came back in and asked who I'd been talking to. I told him, just the dog. But he swore he'd heard goodnight, said twice, clear as day, like an echo. I'd only said it once. I moved out soon after, and I've never looked back. That place changed how I see the world, some things you just can't explain away. What are your thoughts on this unsettling account? Has a familiar chill run through you? Or have you brushed against something similar in your own space? Share in the comments if this story echoes any eerie moments from your life. Your experiences could spark the next tale we uncover. About 3 years ago, my mom and I found ourselves in a tough spot financially, so we ended up renting this one-bedroom apartment that was the only thing we could afford at the time. It was part of an old Victorian home in Tacoma, Washington, that had been divided into 4 separate units. The building had that classic charm with high ceilings and ornate moldings. But from the moment we stepped inside, I felt something off about the place. I've always been sensitive to energies, whether from people or locations, and if there's negativity lingering, it hits me like a wave. This apartment didn't feel evil exactly, but it was unsettling, like the air was thick with unspoken secrets. We brushed it off because we needed a roof over our heads, and the location was convenient enough, close to work and shops, though the neighborhood had its rough edges. We settled in, arranging our few belongings to make it feel like home. My mom, who was 63 then, took the bedroom, and I crashed on the couch in the living room most nights. The layout was simple. You entered into a small foyer that opened to the living room on one side and the kitchen on the other, with the bedroom and bathroom tucked further back. The floors creaked underfoot, which we attributed to the age of the building, and the windows rattled slightly in the wind, but nothing seemed out of the ordinary at first. We spent the initial weeks unpacking boxes, cooking simple meals, and trying to build a routine amidst our struggles. My mom worked long hours at a local diner, and I was juggling part-time jobs while figuring out my next steps in life. Despite the financial strain, we were grateful to have our own space. A couple of months passed, and things started to feel a bit more normal, but that's when the first incident happened. I decided to spend the night at my boyfriend's place, something I didn't do often because I didn't like leaving my mom alone. Around 9:30 p.m., my phone rang. It was her. Her voice was shaky, and I could tell right away she was upset. She asked if I was okay and at my boyfriend's, which I confirmed. Then she explained what had happened. She'd gone to lie down for bed, still fully awake, when she heard my voice yelling "Mama" from the doorway, clear as day, as if I was standing right there. It startled her so much that she sat up and called out, thinking I had come home early. But the apartment was empty. She checked every room, even the closets, but no one was there. I tried to rationalize it as maybe a dream or her mind playing tricks from tiredness, but she insisted she hadn't even closed her eyes yet. The way she described it sent a chill through MIT. Wasn't just a sound. It felt targeted, like something mimicking me to get her attention. We tried to put it behind us, chalking it up to stress, or the old building's acoustics carrying noises from neighbors. But my mom couldn't shake the feeling that whatever it was had been trying to scare her specifically. She started sleeping with the lights on, and avoided being in the apartment alone when possible. About a week later, she decided to try cleansing the space with Palo Santo, something a friend had suggested. She did this while I was out again, but she called me in a panic, begging me to come home right away. When I arrived, she was pale and sitting on the couch with a cup of tea, trying to calm her nerves. She recounted the process, starting from the front door, moving through the living room, into the bedroom and bathroom, then the kitchen, working methodically from front to back, wafting the smoke and saying prayers for peace and protection. As she finished in the kitchen and turned to head back to the living room, where we had a small table with 2 chairs, she froze. Her chair, the one she always sat in, was pulled out from the table and tilted back, balancing perfectly on its 2 back legs, defying gravity. It hadn't been like that when she started. She'd pushed it in earlier. There was no draft, no one else in the apartment, and the chair was heavy wood. Couldn't have moved on its own. She knocked it over in fright, and that's when she called me. Seeing her so rattled made me believe something was truly wrong. I promised we'd start looking for a new place, but with our limited budget, it wasn't going to be quick or easy. We couldn't just break the lease without consequences, so we had to endure it a bit longer. Things quieted down for a short while, giving us false hope that whatever it was had passed. But about a month after the chair incident, another event shattered that illusion. I was lounging on the couch, scrolling through my phone, while my mom was in the kitchen preparing dinner, chopping vegetables for a simple stew. Suddenly, she let out a blood-curdling scream that made me jump up and rush in. She was standing there, knife in hand now, but pointing at the cutting board with wide eyes. She explained. She'd set the knife down on the board after slicing a carrot, turned to the sink to grab an onion, just a few seconds, and when she turned back, the knife was gone. Nowhere on the counter, not on the floor. Panicking, she opened the drawer to grab another one, and as she turned back to the board, there it was, the original knife, right where she'd left it, as if it had never moved. Her hands were trembling as she told me, and I could see the fear in her eyes. This wasn't just sounds or tricks of the light. This was physical, something manipulating objects in our home. We both knew then that we couldn't stay. The apartment no longer felt like a safe haven. It was like an intruder was toying with us, escalating from mimics to direct interference. We packed essentials that night and went to stay with a friend for a few days, then extended it while we scrambled for a new place. Eventually, we found something even smaller but affordable, and we left without looking back. To this day, my mom refuses to talk about it much, and I've never seen her so terrified. I still wonder what was in that old Victorian home, lingering in those walls, waiting for the next tenants. Whatever it was, it felt personal, and I'm convinced if we'd stayed longer, something truly bad would have happened to her. If this tale of unseen forces playing games in the shadows has stirred memories of your own brushes with the inexplicable, why not drop a comment below, sharing what sent shivers through you? Your insights might just connect the dots for someone else reading along. It all started about 3 years ago when I found that apartment through my best friend's sister. She was breaking her lease, and I was in a desperate spot. My ex-husband and I were still living with his mom, and we needed our own place badly. The rent was affordable, even if the neighborhood was a bit rough, with homeless folks wandering the streets and alleys that always felt a little too shadowy after dark. The building was old, probably from the early 1900s, with creaky stairs leading up to the second floor. As soon as you stepped inside, the kitchen greeted you on the right, open and flowing into the living room like it was trying to make the space feel bigger than it was. A long hallway stretched out from there, about 20 feet of narrow passage, with doors lining the left side. 2 bedrooms, a bathroom, and at the end, a door to a cramped laundry room that always smelled faintly of dampness. We moved in quickly, excited for the independence, and for the first year and a half, things were mostly normal. My ex set up his gaming rig in the living room, and I claimed the spare bedroom as my art studio, complete with a desk, paints, and my laptop for streaming videos while I worked on crafts. He had 2 cats that loved to cause chaos, jumping on everything, so I made a habit of always shutting the studio door to keep them out, and I was meticulous about my computer shutting it down properly every time, just like he'd taught me. No leaving it on overnight. That was a rule. Life ticked along without much drama while he was there. The cats roamed, we'd cook dinners in that open kitchen, and the place felt like a fresh start. But there was one incident that stuck with us, something we couldn't quite explain away. It happened one night when I woke up in the wee hours to the sound of a video playing faintly in the distance. Groggy and half asleep, I figured one of the cats had knocked into his gaming setup in the living room, maybe pawing at the keyboard and accidentally powering it on. I rolled over, too tired to investigate, and drifted back to sleep. But the next morning, as my ex got ready for work, I heard him head into my studio and fiddle with something. That's when it hit me, the sound hadn't come from his computer at all. It was my laptop, blaring a YouTube video loud enough to wake the dead. My heart skipped a beat, because I distinctly remembered shutting it down the evening before, after finishing a painting session. To boot it up, you'd need my passcode, and the studio door had been firmly closed all night. No way the cats could have gotten in. If it had been running earlier, we would have heard it during dinner or while winding down for bed. We checked for malware, glitches, anything logical, but nothing added up. It was weird, sure, but isolated. So we laughed it off as a tech fluke and moved on. Little did I know, that was just the beginning. Then the divorce came, swift and messy, and he moved out, taking the cats with him. Suddenly, it was just me and my Great Dane in that echoing space. She was my loyal shadow, always curling up on her futon at the foot of my bed each night, never wandering off to the living room alone. But from the moment he left, the apartment shifted. The air felt heavier, like an invisible weight pressing down, and I could never shake the sensation of being watched, eyes lingering from the corners, following my every move. I started avoiding the long hallway after dark. It had this unnatural chill that seeped into your bones, no matter how high I cranked the heat. My friend, who'd visited her sister there years before, confessed it had always given her the creeps too, but her sister swore up and down she'd never felt a thing in her decade-long stay. I tried to convince myself it was just the loneliness playing tricks, the adjustment to single life in a sketchy area making me paranoid, but then the smells started, stale, pungent cigarette smoke wafting through randomly, like someone had just stubbed out a butt in the next room. I'd sniff around the laundry room, where it was strongest, checking vents and windows for drafts from neighbors, but nothing. It wasn't me. I'd never smoked a day in my life, and neither had the previous tenant. The odor would appear out of nowhere, hitting me as I unlocked the front door after work, or lingering in the hallway, like an unwelcome guest, and then vanished just as quickly. It made my skin crawl, wondering if some vagrant had snuck in through a weak spot in the building. About 6 months post-divorce, I started seeing my current boyfriend, and he'd crash over a few nights a week. I didn't like admitting it, but I hated being there solo, and he sensed my unease, insisting on staying to keep an eye on things. That's when the activity ramped up, like whatever was there didn't appreciate the company, or maybe it fed off the tension. He'd jolt awake in the dead of night, drenched in sweat, heart racing from an overwhelming dread, convinced something was in the room with us. No dreams, no triggers, just pure, primal fear washing over him. I'd feel it too sometimes, that icy grip tightening in my chest, but we'd huddle under the covers and wait it out. The kitchen became a hot spot. I'd lie in bed listening to cabinets rattling softly, silverware clinking as if someone was rummaging for a midnight snack. My dog would perk up, ears twitching, but she'd settle back down, leaving me to wonder if it was all in my head. The most terrifying night etched itself into my memory forever. I was alone with my Great Dane, tucked in for the evening, when around 2 a.m., I snapped awake to her low, rumbling growl, a sound she'd never made randomly in the dark. She was bolt upright on her futon, hackles raised, teeth bared, staring intently into the shadowy hallway beyond my open door. My pulse thundered in my ears. She'd always been so chill, out cold. Once lights were off, I shushed her quietly, straining to listen, and there it was, creaking footsteps shuffling down the hall from the living room, slow and deliberate, getting closer with each step. Convinced an intruder had broken in, maybe the squatter I'd imagined lurking in the walls for months. I slipped out of bed as silently as possible, grabbing my pistol from under the mattress. My hands shook as the footsteps continued, my dog growling louder now, her eyes locked on the void. I crept to the doorway, weapon raised, fully expecting a silhouette to emerge from the darkness. But when I peered out, nothing. The hallway stretched empty and still, bathed in faint moonlight from the window. Relief flooded me briefly, but paranoia kicked in. I flipped on lights, methodically checking every room, the kitchen counters bare, Living room undisturbed, doors and windows securely locked. No signs of forced entry, no one hiding in closets. I barricaded back in the bedroom, pistol on the nightstand, but sleep evaded me. I lay there, replaying those phantom steps, wondering if I'd finally lost it. It didn't end there. One evening, as my boyfriend and I settled into bed, I heard the silverware drawer yank open with a sharp clatter, then slam shut like an angry punctuation. We both froze, exchanging wide-eyed glances, but neither moved to investigate. We were past pretending it was the wind or settling floors. The incidents piled up, eroding my sanity, until the day I decided enough was enough. While grabbing mail downstairs, I bumped into the restaurant owner below my unit. We chatted casually, and I mentioned my upcoming move. His face shifted, and he asked point blank if I'd ever experienced unexplainable things up there. My stomach dropped. I confessed yes, and pressed for details. He nodded knowingly, revealing that his staff and customers had seen apparitions in the restaurant, full-bodied figures, appearing and vanishing in corners, cans flying off shelves on their own, that heavy watched feeling permeating the space. And the kicker, the previous tenant in the front apartment had dabbled with a Ouija board, potentially stirring something up. He'd even hired a medium who sensed energy vortexes in the basement portals or lingering presences, she claimed. Hearing that validated every unease, every sound. It wasn't imagination or isolation, it was real. The final straw came one night as we prepped for bed. I was already under the covers, my dog settling in, when I murmured goodnight to her. My boyfriend, fresh from brushing his teeth in the bathroom, wandered in and asked who I'd been talking to. Confused, I said just the dog, but he insisted he'd heard goodnight, echoed twice, clear as day, like a conversation. I'd only said it once. That mimicry chilled me to the core, a direct taunt from whatever shared the space. I moved out shortly after, packing essentials and fleeing to a friend's couch, before finding something new. That apartment changed me, opened my eyes to the unseen, making me question every creak in the night. To this day, I avoid old buildings with long hallways, and the smell of stale smoke still sends me into a panic. Whatever was there, it felt attached, comfortable in its domain, and I'm grateful I left before it decided to get more personal. If the echoes of those footsteps and whispers in this story have you glancing over your shoulder at your own quiet spaces, take a moment to comment what eerie sound or sight would make you pack up and leave. Your shared fears might just warn someone else before it's too late. As we wrap up these tales of unseen presences lurking in the places we call home, it's hard not to reflect on how ordinary spaces can harbor extraordinary secrets. Each story we've explored tonight, from the mimicking voices that prey on solitude, to the objects that move with a will of their own, and the footsteps that echo without a source, reminds us that the boundary between the everyday and the eerie is thinner than we'd like to believe. These accounts, drawn from real lives disrupted by the inexplicable, show patterns of escalation, where what starts as a fleeting unease builds into something that forces people to flee. Perhaps it's the history embedded in old walls, unresolved energies clinging to the air, or simply the unknown brushing against our reality. Whatever the cause, they leave a lingering question. What shadows might be watching in your own corners right now? If these narratives have you pondering the hidden histories of your surroundings, or replaying unexplained moments from your past, why not voice those thoughts in the comments? Describe how these stories resonate with you. Did they mirror a chill you've felt, or spark a new caution about the quiet hours? Your reflections could weave into the fabric of our community, helping others recognize the signs before the whispers turn to warnings. And if you've been gripped by the dread in these real accounts, Show it by smashing that like button. It's your way of signaling these tales hit home. Don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell for notifications, ensuring you catch every fresh upload in our daily series of authentic, spine-tingling experiences shared by everyday people just like you. Got a story of your own that still keeps you up at night? Send it our way at chillingtruehorror@gmail.com. The email's right there in the description, ready for your submission to become the next chilling feature. Stay vigilant out there, and we'll meet again tomorrow for more dives into the darkness.